It's time to dive back into some spooktastic games. Today's choice being Lost In Vivo, a dark and twisted game that'll make you confront your inner demons from Akuma Kira. Now, before we begin, I'd like to give a shout out to the lovely Katophoenix for this fantastic art piece. And thank you for watching and supporting the content. Now let's jump right into the sewers, shall we? Your character's out walking during a storm, and as the storm intensifies, your dog gets washed away into the sewers and the jagged metal tears the leash, forcing you to open the nearby manhole and plunge into the sewers yourself to search for your beloved support dog Danny. Honestly, the story in this game's very good, and this game, much like the creator's previous game Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion, or House of Jumpscares, whatever you prefer to call it, takes a large amount of inspiration and homages to other horror properties. One of the chief inspiration for this game, however, is the Silent Hill franchise, from its music and sound design, to the story and the large focus on mental health, psychological trauma, and learning to adapt and overcome these issues. This game is one of those indies that prove that good horror is not dead. You just have to search it out. The game has also received numerous updates over the last few years that have added in more free content, such as the hidden tapes, altering gameplay elements, and expanding the content here. This game's also a great example of taking inspiration from other horror franchises, without just outright lifting everything. Yes, I'm talking about you, Daymare 1998. You know what you did, you fuck. Lost In Vivo is a first-person shooter with some melee elements, but the primary gameplay elements involve puzzles, exploration, and finding information and lore that'll help you both continue on your journey and fill you in on what caused these places to become the way they are. The weapons are intentionally underpowered. They aren't meant to blast through everything, more to help you out of a bad situation and keep on the move. Many enemies in this game cannot outright be killed, like the false dog, or cannot be killed in traditional methods, and instead require being killed via puzzles and problem solving, such as luring them into traps. Another thing that is in keeping with the Silent Hill inspirations is the fact that many of the monsters are manifestations of your mind, though some abominations are purely supernatural and caused by other entities or people such as Soteris or the Ghost Girl. The game plays heavily on meta horror and manifestation of the character's psychological traumas and illnesses, such as the abuse she received from a lover, body image issues related from both bulimia and pregnancy, and more. Many of these come up in gameplay and require you to either fight creatures that spawn from these thoughts or solve puzzles to show growth in overcoming your issues before you stand a chance in hell from escaping this nightmare. Examples of the meta horror are prevalent in this game as well. There's one scene where you're walking along with a jug of high strength acid. Your character will trip and horribly melt, and when you hit continue, you'll walk back into the room to find there are now mirror enemies in the room that you must fight, which represent your image issues, and when you walked away you die. There's a pile of melting flesh, and your character will remark, "Gross, disgusting, I'm so ugly," showing that's how she feels about herself. I'd like to list more examples, but I'd hate to ruin any more of the cool tricks and scares this game uses. I think you should experience them yourself, but just know the meta horror is very good in this game. One other example I am willing to mention is the hidden tapes. Throughout the game there's various hidden tapes. Each one's a short standalone experience that can be played at any time you find a tape deck in the game or from the main menu. Each one is a fairly short experience that you must accomplish some objective to leave, or you can hold escape if you really want to. The tape worlds are distorted, grainy like old tape, with static distorting things, like you're actually experiencing the events via tape. Now there's a large variety of enemies as well in the game, and they typically either relate to your mental trauma or nightmarish creatures spawned from the actions of others. Things that are ranging from small creatures, an imposter, all the way up to a Lovecraftian being that seeks you and the entire universe's end. The final gameplay element I'd like to make note of is the fact there is a bunch of hidden content. There's a bunch of bonus tapes, there's a bunch of additional game modes that are found only after either completing the game or fulfilling specific objectives. And there's also 5 different endings in the game, so be sure to search for them all. This is definitely one of the game's strongest elements. Visually speaking, this game goes for that retro PS1 style aesthetic that's definitely become more popular in the last couple of years, although this is from 2017, so it's a little bit before the curve. Personally, I think this is an excellent choice, as something about that style just makes a lot of the visuals more disturbing and uncomfortable. This also allows the creator a lot more leeway, and probably saves a lot of time and money developing assets compared to games that are super insanely detailed visually. Though don't let this statement fool you. The game is plenty detailed and visually interesting, just in a retro aesthetic. Another fantastic element's the atmosphere and sound design this game sets out to achieve, and achieve it does. The soundtrack takes heavy cues from the Silent Hill franchise once again, and many times leaning towards an industrial soundtrack in the same vein as Akira Yamaoka, which is something I love. I can't stand when horror titles have no soundtrack or one that's just so bland you don't even notice it. I'm looking at you, Resident Evil 2 and 3 Remake. So yeah, having a distinct and vivid soundtrack that serves to amp you up and crank the tension higher is definitely a solid choice in my book. The atmosphere is ominous, dark, foreboding, and has plenty of red herrings that'll fool you and fuck with your head. There are several times when you think the game's about to end and then you're about to achieve the goal you set out for, and then BAM! You're dragged right back in for another couple of rounds. Coupled with the fact that the games are always fucking with your head and giving you hallucinations that at times make it hard to tell what's even real and what's a fake out. I also have to note there was no real performance issues in this game. Honestly, just didn't encounter any problems. So I guess that's a good thing. Well, if you're not convinced to buy this game at this point, then this genre is most definitely not your cup of tea. This game's some of the best horror I've played in years, and yet it's another indie title. Why is it that AAA games cannot make good horror games anymore? And don't even get me started on Resident Evil 8. I will yeet you into oblivion, you little fuck. But yeah, this is both a fantastic love letter to horror and its own fantastic experience and story. Not to mention the fact that it's only $12 on Steam. $12 for this? I've gotten more enjoyment out of this than I've gotten out of any of the new Resident Evil games in the last fucking couple of years. Hell, wait for a sale and you could probably get it under $5 if you really wanted to. The only negative I could say is this game isn't insanely long, but you'll enjoy it while it lasts. It also doesn't overstay its welcome like mini games do and just drag on forever and ever. The game always keeps it fresh and interesting with new elements of gameplay coming and going. Couple that with the fact there's a ton of bonus unlockables, extra modes, the bonus tapes. There's a lot of additional content here. Now I hope you've enjoyed this review. Thanks for supporting the content. If you want more, be sure to check the description. Thanks again to Kato for her great artwork. This has been Core, and I'll see you next time.